and welcome to my first studio vlog. I want to set some ground expectations. This is not going to be like one of those perfectly aesthetic, beautiful, everything is clean and tidy, and cutesy sort of studio vlogs. I love those too, don't get me wrong, they're like so calming. But I know that for me, if I have that expectation of like perfect cleanliness in my studio from the start, that's going to become a barrier to me doing this and making videos, which is not what I want. So, you know, my studio is going to be messy. I think my studio is still really cute. But, you know, I hope you're going to get to see my artwork. You're going to get to see information about like my process and stuff. But yeah, this is not going to be like a high aesthetic sort of thing. So if you're looking for one of those like perfectly clean and beautiful studio vlogs that are so super soothing, this will not be it. But I think that I hope the end result is that I get to be a little bit more honest about the reality, more myself, and yeah, art is messy. I'm messy. You know, there's stuff I see, you know, there's stuff in the background over here. I've specifically tilted my camera so you can't see the other side of my studio, which is very messy right now. But art is messy and creating is messy, and you don't have to have a perfectly clean space to be making art that you love. So anyways, I thought today we would just do a little tour of my sketchbooks. I have not been what I would consider a sketchbook artist for a really long time, probably since college. I just found that the type of art I was making, you know, is often done in watercolors, and for whatever reasons, you know, one of them being, I think, finding a sketchbook with the right paper quality. I just don't like doing watercolors in sketchbooks necessarily. So I tend to do my big watercolors, you know, on sheets of paper that are loose, and I do them at my desk, so I don't really like watercolor, you know, in location or whatever. But anyways, recently I have become a sketchbook artist, and it is bringing me like so much joy and so much space for like fun artistic exploration again, and I'm really loving it. Also, my kitten is down here rolling around on my desk. Maybe he'll stick his head up so you can see him because he's very cute, but right now he's just chewing on my finger. But it's given me so much space for exploration, and I thought it'd be really fun to share about kind of like what has made that change possible for me and for me to start making art like this. And then for you guys to get to see the art of my sketchbooks, because I'm really proud of it. There's a little paw, a little paw. Okay, a little bit about me. If you don't know anything about me, you're not, you know, one of the people who I know in person, which I feel like is most of my follower audience at this point. My name is Emma. My pronouns are they, them. I am an artist living in Michigan. My partner and I just moved to the Lansing area. I spent the first 20 some odd years of my life, I don't do math well, living in Missouri. Most of my childhood living in the Missouri Ozarks, which I'm still absolutely in love with and miss all the time. And then I spent about 5 years living in St. Louis before moving to Michigan. So the Ozarks definitely still influence my artwork and my love of like color and, you know, rich landscapes. I'll be honest, I don't do a lot of landscapes yet because I'm still learning, but just my love of the natural world definitely comes through my, you know, living in the Ozarks. Here's my little guy. You should see it to see his cute little face. Yeah, he's a good boy. He's a rascal. He might get kicked out before I do my sketchbook tour, because otherwise you'll just be looking at him and not the art, because he's gonna stand on top of everything. So anyways, yeah, so I recently, when we moved, kind of circumstances aligned, and I felt like I was ready to take the chance at being a working artist and making part of my income and my livelihood from my art. I know what a lot of people do is they really do like the insane hustle of making that art at first in the evenings and on the weekends, while working a full-time job, and like props to them. But I do just want to say, like, that's not feasible for everybody. I have, you know, different chronic health problems. I have ADHD, and I do not have the energy to make art at the end of the day like that, or on the weekends when I'm feeling completely burnt out from working 40 hours a week, which is really hard for me. So long story short, you know, I hope that's something we can talk about more in the future, because I think it's good to have a realistic understanding of like what you can do as an artist, and that there are different limits for what you can do. I switched to part-time at the end of the year. We moved to Lansing, and once we got settled in, I started making my art more consistently and posting. I opened my own Etsy shop for the first time in the start of March, and that's been really lovely. And I've been vending at events, which for me has been huge and really fun. Yeah, so just, you know, starting to try and make art, sell art, share my art with people, because it's what I really love doing and it brings me more joy than anything. And I can honestly say that even after just a few months of working part-time and then spending part-time like running my own business and making art, like, it's just the happiest and the most satisfied I've ever been. I don't end every day with a headache, which was pretty frequent when I worked a desk job every day. And I just get up and I'm really excited about like getting to make art and spend my day doing creative things. So I think that's enough background about me for first video. Let's go ahead and get into the sketchbooks that I have. And of course, as described, my little rascal is right here under the camera, so I'm gonna go kick him out of the studio and then I'll be right back. Okay, I've given my kitten the boot, so now we can talk about the sketchbooks. There are 3 here, mainly because they have different paper qualities. So we'll start with this one, which is like my really just pencil sketches when I'm thinking about layouts or trying to come up with ideas for new artwork. And I'm left-handed, so when I have a sketchbook with a spiral on the side, I use it from the back to the front, so the spiral is not in the way when I draw. Yeah. So this one I started maybe at the start of the year, and this was the first thing I did. Was I wanted to learn how to draw like a frog in a style that I liked. And if you have seen my stickers and my frog print, you will know that I was successful. I settled into like a frog shape that I liked, and I did this silly little sketch. And then I started letting people on Instagram suggest different frogs for me to draw. So we've got like this little frog egg on toast, and a boxing frog, and a little bonnet frog. These guys are getting abducted. This wizard frog and the dancer frog. And these two became finished paintings and are now stickers, and this one is also a print. But this is, you know, my little chef frog. He also became a sticker. This is a little bit obscure, but this is Mr. Darcy as a frog, quoting to Elizabeth Bennet. Maybe not that obscure, but it was a little bit silly. I did it for my partner, who absolutely loves everything Jane Austen. A frog wrapped up in pasta holding a meatball. Just some thoughts about zines and stickers, some garden planning. Again, this is very much like my working sketchbook. And then here I was doing a commission of a dog, and so I did a few different sketches to plan out like the face and everything before I got one that I felt was correct for the finished painting. Skunks, I did, if you've seen my little print series, I have a raccoon, a possum, and a skunk, all surrounded by like little snacks, essentially things that they like to eat in the natural world. But I hadn't really drawn a skunk before, so I had to figure out what my skunk character was going to look like, and then plan out that painting, and this ended up being the final composition that I did. Just some thinking about quilt paintings, some swatching, some more frogs. I think there will be more frogs in my future. I really love this little guy stealing a tomato from a farmer. He's up here initially, but I made him a little bit bigger, and I'm still kind of working on how I want him to be. This was just texting some markers with kids at camp. A little comic about the difference between Doodle's short legs and my kitten Ozark's very long legs. Let's see here, that's all work stuff. These will show up in my other sketchbook, but I was thinking about like turtles who have quilt designs as their shells. Some more thinking about quilt paintings. Oh, I do love this little sketch of some raccoons looking at a pie over here. This one, which also became a finished painting, although I don't quite like the composition of it yet, so I'm still working on it. It's not a print or anything at the moment. And then I did get a button maker. I borrowed it from my friend, And so at some of my future events, I am going to have buttons. So I've just been thinking about designs for those. I really want to do like a series of these like ADHD ones that are reminder buttons. So like this one would be like one that I would keep on my washing machine, and then I would pin it on myself when I start my laundry because I always forget my laundry, and then I just wouldn't take it off until I finish my laundry, so I have a physical reminder. This one would be like a reminder to clean the litter box, which is kind of niche. This one like a reminder to make sure you have all your things before you leave the house. But yeah, just kind of playing around with that sort of stuff. Some more composition ideas for future paintings, and that's it for this one at the moment. So yeah, this is just like a very, this is my sketchy sketchbook, where everything is just mostly in pencil, and it's mostly about the thinking and not like having completed art. I get my like sketchy sketchbooks at Five Below because yeah, I don't need great paper, and a $5 sketchbook is perfect because I go through them pretty quickly. So that's the first one, really just about having space to think. And then the next one that I started sketching into is this really cute one. If you recognize it, it's a Rifle Paper Co. sketchbook. The paper is a decent quality. I would say it would work perfectly well for dry media, probably a lot for like pencils and pens, and it will take light washes. But you know, I had that, oh, it's so perfect, I can't use my perfect sketchbook sort of thing going on for a little while. So I've had this for quite a bit, but I finally decided to start drawing into it because I was seeing so many sketchbook artists on Instagram, and I realized that I really wanted that again, to have that like, you know, kind of collection of more space where I could play and drawings that are between that sketchy stage and, you know, my perfect, not perfect, but, you know, more finished pieces. So my technique in a new sketchbook is I always just skip the first page because I get like first page anxiety. I did go back in and stamp my new Noodles Doodle stamp on this page, and then I just paint something on the second page. So this was a little doodle I did of Ozark with his wiggle worm, which he absolutely loves these things. If he hears, they all have bells on them, and if he hears that jingle, he'll come running from like anywhere in the house, which is so cute. He had this big fluffy face when he was little. He's now like very lanky and angular because he's in that stage of his development, but I hope that he grows this like big floof back out again once he kind of like fleshes out a bit. Okay, and then yeah, this was the first like sort of sketchy sketch that I did in here, and just, you know, some fun flowers and plants. I love daffodils. I think they're one of the hardest flowers to draw on the planet. This one is okay for me. It's, you know, I certainly still something I would want to keep working on. I do really like this sort of poppy over here. The dogtooth violet is cute, and I love this little fern. I just like the way the watercolor worked on it. So this one was done in watercolor and then colored pencil over the top, and that was really fun. I did that one at my kitchen table. And yeah, just a nice little exploration of florals. And then I did this one of the turtles with their little quilt shells sewing. This one has a shell made of buttons, which like I think is a cute idea, but I'm not quite happy with my execution yet. And then this one has like a little embroidered shell. So again, just a light wash of watercolor, which seems to work fine in this book, and then colored pencil over the top for the details. I think I'd like to take this idea further at some point, but I haven't quite decided how I'm going to do that. Just as context, I am also a sewist. I sew some of my own clothes, I quilt, yeah, and my background is actually in fiber arts, so. And then I did this little snail. This was on a week where I gave myself burnout by trying to do too much for my business at one time, in a way that was not feasible. And so I just kind of made myself sit down and play, but also really wanted to reflect on, like, you know, if I make myself burn out doing art, then I'm just back in the situation where I'm really unhappy again. And so I need to continue to find a way to do it that lets me continue to love it and to be happy doing what I'm doing. Okay, and then this page, like just a bunch of silly little doodles, but this is for me where I kind of found my like little game changer material for like actually working a lot in my sketchbook. So that's what I wanted to show. And I started off, I got like the small set of these. They're the Caran water soluble crayons. And I have like the little like 12 set or whatever, but I was at my mom's house over the weekend, my mom and dad's house for Mother's Day, and I noticed that my mom had a set of these, and I asked her how she liked them, and she was like, oh, I'm not really using them at all. My mom is a phenomenal artist. She does like practically photorealistic colored pencil drawings. But yeah, these were just not a good fit for her, so I actually ended up trading her these for a bunch of my new greeting cards that she wanted, which was a fabulous trade for me. But if you've never seen them or used them before, they are like somewhere between a crayon and a pastel, but then they're water soluble, so you can color with them and then use a little water to blend it out. I'm going to do like a quick little example since I have space on this page. But I found what I really don't like about sketching, like if I'm sketching somewhere, like, you know, trying to draw a plein air or whatever, is that I don't, and even with colored pencil, I don't like when there's a lot of like white showing through the background of just about anything. So I have this little brush pen, it's full of water. It's also kind of old and gross, but that's how art supplies get when you use them a lot. But yeah, you can just take and blend these out, and you get these really lovely rich colors, and you can even like, I probably put a little bit too much down, but you know, you can really get a good range of values, and then you can go back in over the top and do more layers, and you can do oil pastel over the top if you want to, but you can also do colored pencils. And this for me, for my brain, turns out to be like the perfect way to work in a sketchbook when I'm traveling. So I did this silly little spread on the train on our way to Chicago. We had like this little bag of candy, and so I ended up like drawing a lot of the candies with these and then blending them out with water and then using colored pencil and a little bit more of the pastels to finish them up. And I did this one, which I really love. Suddenly I cannot think of what sort of flowers these are. I did this one, which I really love. And this is all done with these pastels, blended out, and then more detail added in, as well as like some colored pencil detail. But I don't know, there's just, you know, for some reason I love that you still get all these like texture lines, even where I painted it out, but it is like filled in, and you're able to get those solid layers of color as well that are really smooth. So yeah, this absolutely perfect for me. And actually, now that I'm saying that, I actually did this one first. Somehow I missed this page, like I just flipped through 2 pages at once. So I went back and did this one on the train, and then I did this one on the train as well. And I am obsessed with this. I love that it still has like that loose, sketchy quality and lots of texture to it, while still being like really rich and filled in, and smooth, like that balance of texture and smooth. I'm really upset that I accidentally like created this little like drag line over the pear, but yeah, so this one was done completely using these pastels. On the train, I didn't have to have a big watercolor setup, which I think is also like a space thing. Like I have like, you know, kind of like when you're on an airplane, I had that little tray, and so I was able to just set my sketchbook and my pastels, and like it all fit, which was very nice. While we were in Chicago, I got some oil pastels, and so I did a little tiny swatch with those, but just testing how they laid over different backgrounds of these. So using these to create the background, and then these for the detail, just kind of seeing how that worked. And while we were in Chicago, we saw so many tulips. They have these massive sections of the sidewalk on some of the streets that are just planted with tulips, and they were all blooming while they were there. They were absolutely beautiful, and I was really determined to capture them, and I will be honest, I still have not done that in a way I'm happy with. This was my first attempt. It's okay. I think it's so funny though, because then when I was at Garfield Conservatory, I took all these pictures of the plants there, And like these I think came out phenomenally well. I'm really happy with them. I love that I managed to capture like the shape and the color of the flowers without like getting too like overworking it or trying to make it photorealistic. So yeah, these are all from the flower house at the Garfield Conservatory in Chicago, which I've never been to before, but if you get the chance, you should absolutely go to. And then we went back to tulips. So this was on the train home. I decided to go like to kind of take a step back and start with these like colored pencil tulips and work on capturing the shape, which I feel like I did really well with some of these. My kitten has broken back into the office. Here he is. Hi, little guy. You can be here, just not on top of the paper. And then also like trying to figure out how to capture them like in an arrangement of like, you know, a bunch of tulips. And I really feel like I got that here. The daytime ones are more open, of course, and then in the evening they all close again. And so then I attempted to capture them again with my pastels, and I don't think these are really any better. So my quest to make a good illustration of tulips continues, but I do like this page and I feel like I learned a lot doing it, and I kind of confirmed that like I do know how to shape them and I do know how to create that arrangement. I just haven't figured out how to create that arrangement like using pastels. So I think it's something I want to try with watercolors. Let's see if we get him a little desk space if he'll behave. He's watching birds on the roof outside. And then also on the train home, I was thinking about, I had a big event coming up that weekend, 2 events actually, and I wanted to sell all these hand-painted wooden bolo ties that I've been making. And I knew that when I got home, I was going to have like one day to paint them all, because then they have to be like varnished and you have to put the hardware on the back. And so I tried to do a lot of planning of like, what are some designs I would want to draw. So I just kind of planned those out on the train. And then these little guys, these are going to be part of a bigger project, but you'll kind of see here, you can do these thin washes of watercolor, but you really can't put down like a really thick, a really rich layer just because it soaks in so slowly. It doesn't, like it just dries kind of splotchy. So I use like these thin washes of watercolor here to get the backgrounds, and then I did the detail in colored pencil. And I love these little guys. You're going to see them again in my other sketchbook because I actually did the finished sketches of them in there. And then that's it. I'm still working on this one. All right, you have to go. I'm still working on this one. I just started it this morning out in my yard, so we'll see what that becomes. But that's the second sketchbook. And then this one, I was watching some videos about how to like paint fields of flowers and other people's sketchbooks. I love looking at other people's sketchbooks. And somebody had said that they loved the paper in this one, and I was like, I think I have one of those on my shelf. And I did, in fact. It's from 2018, so this little colored pencil drawing is ages old. I can't think about, that's like 8 years ago. Sorry, let me try and kick him out again. He's being a little rascal. And so is this little kind of cameo of some leaves here. But I ended up redoing my cats in here, and you can see right away like the color is so much richer, and I was able to get it to lay really smoothly for the watercolor, and then come back in with the colored pencil. And I absolutely love these. These are finished designs. They're gonna become something. I have like a really fun idea in mind. But yeah, this paper worked great for that, for doing the watercolor and the colored pencil, because it is very smooth. It's smoother than like a standard watercolor paper, but it still takes like those simple washes really well, and then the colored pencil on top. And then I did 2 more of these lovely little guys here. This, of course, I should have said this one. This is my kitten, Ozark. He's got his silly little like snoot, his gray snoot here. He just looks like a little goofball because he's a little goofball. But then I did this one. I made Noodles a little troubadour. I love the color palette of this one, but I realized when I did this that every piece of art and every sticker that I have like in my shop of Noodles right now has him like open-mouthed singing. When he was younger, he was very vocal, and that's the way I still think of him, but he's a little bit older now and he is often quiet. And so Maybe I'll do a quiet illustration of him sometime soon. And then this Regal kitten riding her lovely snail. I like the colors on this, the way that the snail's body and the shell came out. And then this sweet boy is just very darling. He looks not quite stuck up, but he's a little bit above it all. I think I'm gonna do like a little design on the banner here. He's gonna be leading like a little procession of cats. And then I haven't finished this one yet. I don't know if I will. I'm just not quite happy with the composition. You'll see like I sketched her a few different times up here, trying to come up with like, I wanted one more design, but I'm just not quite happy with her. So I don't know if she'll make it to the final round. And then there's a silly little sketch over here. It's pretty hard to see, but it says like Dad's recipes. I made my dad his own recipe binder for his birthday. And I just put this little, I made this in watercolors and put it in, like slipped it into the front pocket of the binder. It's very silly. But then we're back to these guys again. So this painting is done with watercolors, with these crayons, and then oil pastels over the top for some of these pops of color. And I love this as a landscape, like a really quick landscape. It's just a little bit like, you know, it's a little bit overworked, but I think overall it's really nice. I love the trees, and I like that I got a lot of like this like splashy texture here that I think works really nicely for the grass. And then quickly after that, I did this one. My favorite part of spring is seeing like that very pale green when the leaves first flesh out. I just think that's so beautiful, and especially against like a sort of like a gray stormy sky like we get so often in the spring, or against an evening sky. It could certainly use like more contrast and more like buildup, but I think I kind of reached the limits of what the paper could handle as far as this top part here. But it was still really just fun to play with. And then I did this of Ozark. This is all in pastels. This was, my mom gave me these pastels and I immediately like did these. And this was really fun. And then I saw a really cute picture of my friend's dog, Salty, and so I did a little picture of him in a meadow of flowers. They haven't seen it yet. I don't know if they'll watch this video and be very delighted to see him, but I might redo it again as a final painting because I'm really wanting to build my skill for doing like fields of flowers and landscapes of flowers, because I really think I want to be able to do that as like a background and setting for some of the ideas that I have currently. And that's it for the sketchbook at the moment. But this for me is like so much sketchbook art. This is such a big change in my ability to just like go places and make art, as opposed to always making art in my desk. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. And I think I just wanted to share, you know, you have to find, like, you're gonna find materials and things that work really well for you. And like, if something isn't a good fit, like, that's okay. You know, like these were not a good fit for my mom and the way that she works, and now they're mine, which is delightful. But I think, you know, not just keep trying, but like keep thinking about like, what is it that makes art easy for you, and what is it that makes it fun? And like, when you notice those techniques or those settings where you're like, well, it's really easy for me to sit down and make art at my desk, but I hate making it like when I'm out and about, like figuring out why that is for you, and then how you can address that if it's something you want to address, is, I just think, so important. Yeah, and I'm just really happy to be a sketchbook, like to think of myself as like a sketchbook artist again, because I really love being able to pull out my old sketchbooks and look through them and have this kind of like reminder of where I was and what I was doing. And like, I went to this conservatory and how beautiful the flowers were and like how vibrant and everything. So having that sort of record that moves forward in time, as opposed to all my loose stacks of paper, which for me, it's very hard to keep track of what I like drew exactly when, is very magical. So I hope you enjoyed this. I am looking forward to doing more of these in the future. I really spend a lot of time thinking about art. Okay, so yeah, that's my first little sketchbook tour. I hope you guys enjoyed. you know, if you saw things that you're like, I love this, or this is what I want to hear more about that you talked about, but I really want you to tell us more about, like, in a future video, like, please let me know. This is my very first video, so, you know, tell me what it is that you guys want to learn more about, and I will see what I can add in the future. I am already working on my second video, which is going to be like an actual like time-lapse paint with me of a watercolor of like a field of flowers that I'm working on. So stay tuned for that if you're looking for more of like a, you know, process video. I'm really excited to do that one. I finally figured out a camera setup that works for me where I can just kind of like, you know, turn the camera on and not have to think about it and not run into it while I'm working. So yeah, that's good. Anyways, yeah, thank you so much. I will have links below for my Instagram, my Facebook, my Etsy shop. I will put, you know, the few materials that I referenced, I'll list there as well. But please, yeah, drop a comment, let me know what you thought. You know, if there are sketches that you want to see as finished paintings, or if there are things that I mentioned that you want me to talk more about in the future. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.